Hello and welcome. In this third part of our cryptogamic botany and fourth part of our botany syllabus decoding series, we are going to discuss Bryophyta. Bryophyta is an important part of cryptogamic world and it is very important from the examination point of view. In this series, we have already discussed the fungi, the algae, and now it is the turn of bryophytes. Not only that, we have already discussed microbiology. So coming to Bryophyta, it is a group of plant, though there are very limited number of topics in the syllabus. It is quite important when you scan through the previous year's question paper. What happens that a number of questions from the cryptogamic botany eventually seem to go to bryophytes and pteridophytes. More questions every year are asked from these two areas as compared to algae and fungi. And the beauty is that these two areas are comparatively smaller compared to the algae and the fungi. So you can say that in this area, your effort is going to be relatively less, but the rewards are going to be relatively bigger. In comparison to algae and fungi, here the focus is going to be more on structure compared to the reproductive cycle. The reason for not asking reproductive cycle related questions so often, because in majority of the bryophytes and pteridophytes, the life cycle pattern is nearly identical. There is not much to say about the variance in the life cycle, but these two organisms differ from each other significantly in terms of their construction. Not only that, when you see within the bryophytic world, although there is a great consistency of life cycle, there is always a great variation in the structure between members of one genus to members of another genus. And that gives the examiners ample material to ask questions upon. In this video, we are going to take a survey of the important topics of Bryophyta given from the perspective of the Civil Service and the Indian Forest Service main examination. Without wasting any time, let's get into the bryophytic world. So in this first slide that you are seeing here, you are going to deal with what are bryophytes. So as you see here, something very interesting that bryophytes, they are an informal group. So by informal group, we mean to say that once upon a time, the bryophytes were treated as a proper division within the plant world, and we used to call division Bryophyta, and within the division Bryophyta we used to consider three classes: Hepaticopsida, Anthocerotopsida and Bryopsida. But as our understanding of botany grew, we realized that the Hepaticopsida, they actually are at a rank of division. They are so sufficiently different from the other two groups that they can be themselves given the rank of a division. In the similar manner, the Anthocerotopsida, the hornworts, they can be given the rank of their own division, and same goes for the mosses. And thus, there are three distinct divisions of the plant world which together come under the umbrella word Bryophyta. Now, what is the rank above the division? The rank above the division is subkingdom and then kingdom. So do the bryophytes constitute a kingdom or subkingdom? Answer is no. The kingdom is Plantae and the subkingdom is Tracheophyta and Thallophyta. So we do not have any place for the term so-called Bryophyta, therefore we use the expression, and whenever you read modern textbooks on Bryophyta, you will yourself find out that now the word Bryophyta as such is treated as more or less an informal expression for including these three different divisions of the plant group. They are liverworts, common name, and Marchantiophyta, the proper botanical division level name, and here these are the liverworts. Second group is the hornworts. The hornworts are called hornworts because their sporophyte are elongated and they have got horn-shaped structure. Properly, they are known as Anthocerotophyta. They get their name from the genus Anthoceros. In this figure, this is where the hornworts are depicted. So hornworts are here, and the last group, this group is the mosses. So the mosses come under the group called Polytrichophyta. This name comes from the genus Polytrichum. So this is how the bryophytes are defined today. They include three different phyla, three different divisions of the plant world, and these three different divisions come under a common grouping. Now this grouping is known as Bryophyta. Within Bryophyta, there are going to be certain general features that you always have to keep in mind. So to begin with, the bryophytes are primarily land plants, but they lack vasculature. The vasculature starts from the world of pteridophytes, not in the world of bryophytes. After that, they do not have proper plant organs. When we use the term they do not have proper plant organs, that basically implies that they do not have proper root, they do not have proper stem, or they do not have proper leaf. But why do we say that they do not have proper root, proper stem, and proper leaf? In modern day botany, what happens that whenever we use the word root, stem, and leaf, one of the important criterion is that there must be vasculature. If there is no vasculature, then we generally treat that there is no proper plant organ. So the bryophytes do not have xylem and phloem, therefore the bryophytes are said to lack the proper plant organs. Therefore, in the modern textbooks you will find that for bryophytic stem, the word caulid, C-A-U-L-I-D, is used. For bryophytic leaves, the word phyllid is used, and for bryophytic roots, the same term rhizoid is used that you anyway used for algal underground structure. So coming to the earlier slides, the bryophytes do not have proper plant organs. In their life cycle, the gametophytes occupy a dominant position. The gametophytes are haploid and they occupy the dominant position in the life cycle. The sporophyte is dependent on the gametophyte and it is physically attached to the gametophyte. The bryophytes also have jacketed sex organs which differentiates them from the algae. The algae, they have got naked sex organs. Their sex organs do not have protective tissue around them. And finally, the bryophytes have motile male gametes. It is a primitive feature. Their male gametes, they have flagella like this, and these male gametes need a tiny amount of water to swim up to the female gamete. And for this exact reason, the bryophytes are called amphibians of the plant world. And the bryophytes, like any other land plant, they will display the proper wind dispersible spores. So motile male gamete is a primitive habit, but wind dispersed spore is a proper land adapted habit. Talking of the topics which are important, first and foremost, you have to master certain general topics. So get hold of a proper definition of bryophytes. This definition will be needed whenever you are trying to differentiate between bryophytes and pteridophytes, between bryophytes and algae, and any comparison will require that you start with a proper definition. Not only that, whenever you are giving the salient features of the bryophyte, you will need a definition, or even when you are comparing the different groups of bryophytes, you will still be needing a good definition. After definition, you need to have a grasp over the salient features. You need to understand the salient feature primarily because when you are talking about a general short answer on bryophytic reproduction, bryophytic range of a structure, the bryophytic range of a sporophyte, so you will need to fall back upon this salient feature. Not only that, based on the bryophytic salient feature, you are also going to discuss the comparison of bryophytes with pteridophytes. It is the salient structural and reproductive features that will be creating a difference between the two groups of primitive land plants. The next topic is going to be the origin of bryophytes. In my previous discussion, so we are here. So in my previous discussion, we were talking about the importance of Charophycean algae, and that is where we had discussed that how Charophycean algae have been instrumental in giving rise to the land plants. So Charophycean algae have been responsible for giving rise to the land plants approximately 450 million years ago. The bryophytes originated in shallow freshwater bodies from Charophycean algae. There are a number of evidences to support this green algal Charophycean lineage. In your answer, you will need to include all these similarities which indicate a Charophycean origin of algae. And lastly, you are going to discuss in detail the land adaptation. By now, it is already clear. So we are here now. By now, it is already clear that the bryophytes are the most primitive among the land plants. Now, being the most primitive among the land plants certainly makes them have some land adaptation, but at the same time, they were not perfect in terms of having the land adaptation. They came on the land, they were successful, but if you see the Earth's vegetational history, at no point of time you will find the bryophytes having dominated the land flora. You find evidences, fossil evidences, I'm sorry about it. So you find fossil evidences for the bryophytes being present in the Ordovician period, but you never find the fossil evidences for the bryophytes having formed dominant vegetation over the large swathe of land habitat. That never happened. You have evidences for pteridophytic forests. You have evidences for gymnospermous forest, and certainly the today's time is dominated by angiospermic flora. So why the bryophytes could not dominate the land habitat despite being the pioneers? The reason is that they were adapted for the land, but at the same time they were not perfectly adapted. Their land adaptation was incomplete. In this discussion, there are two types of questions which can be asked to you. The first question will be asked, give an account of land adaptation of the bryophytes. That will be an easier question. You can easily differentiate that bryophytes were the earliest land plant. These were the features which made them successful on the land. But on the other hand, you will also have to briefly mention what were the features they could not develop, but they were also needed for the land habitat. That way, you will be completing the answer. But having said that, there is another form of question that can be asked to you, and that question will be framed something like this. The bryophytes, despite being the pioneers on the land flora, could never dominate the land flora. Give the reasons. And that is where again you will be talking about how they were adapted, but at the same time, what were their adaptive limitations. So this is how you are going to go about this topic. If I mark important topic in this slide, salient features are important because it's a very versatile topic. You are going to use it at many places. Land adaptation is an equally important topic. Origin is not asked that frequently, but I will still strongly advise you to treat it as an important topic because this once in a while does come, and if you are caught unprepared, it will cause problem to you. Moving next, we are at other general topics. So here, first we deal with the mode of reproduction. So in modes of reproduction, the bryophytes reproduce sexually. That is the primary mode of reproduction. But at the same time, a number of bryophytes also display vegetative reproduction. Vegetative reproduction Vegetative reproduction in itself is a topic for short note. You have to be prepared. At the same time, sexual reproduction has been asked for certain genera. Anthoceros sexual reproduction has been asked. Markensia sexual reproduction has been asked. Polytrichum sexual reproduction has been asked. So you have to prepare sexual reproduction also. Then you have to prepare alternation of generations. Every single species of Bryophyta displays alternation of generations, every single species without any exception. Besides, this alternation of generation has one common feature, and that common feature is that they have gametophyte as the dominant generation and sporophyte as a dependent and attached generation. The sporophyte draws much of its nutrient and all of its regulatory factors from the gametophyte. Not only that, it is the gametophyte which is persistent, longer living, whereas the sporophyte is a short-lived structure. It will form spores and it will disintegrate, with only exception of many members of Anthoceratophyta, where the sporophyte also tends to be rather persistent. Other than that, you have got all the bryophytes displaying the same type of life cycle. So you have to describe the range of life cycle in bryophytes. So the basic design is always going to be alternation of generations, but in liverworts, this alternation of generation plays by rather simple gametophyte and simple sporophyte. In hornworts, it plays out as simple gametophyte but a little complex sporophyte. In mosses, both of them attain greater complexity. The gametophyte is complex, at the same time, the sporophyte is also sufficiently complex. All of it needs to be included in this answer. And needless to say, in this answer, diagrams are also going to play an important role. So diagrams are mentioned. Vegetative reproduction, I have already mentioned here that vegetative reproduction is an important topic and that you have to prepare. Apart from that, mechanism of spore release and spore dispersal, because in the three divisions of Bryophyta, the Marchantiophytes, the Anthoceratophytes and the Polytrichophytes, in all the three divisions, slightly different mechanism of spore release is adopted. And then once the spores have released, there is no doubt that they will be dispersed by means of wind. But a spore releasing mechanism is quite different, and that has been asked quite often in the examination. So this is again a very important topic. Range and evolution of gametophytes is also an important topic, but much more important topic is range and evolution of sporophyte. It is a highly repeated question. In this, you have to deal with both progressive and regressive theory. You will have to mention who were the chief proponents and supporter of the progressive theory, who were the chief proponents and supporter of the regressive theory. Between the two theories, which theory had greater acceptance and why. And lastly, you will be refuting both the theories that since the bryophytes are actually divided into three sister divisions, so there cannot be a gradual link between these among these groups, and thus there must have been a parallel evolution of a sporophyte rather than a linear evolution. And if there was a parallel evolution, very certainly neither the progressive nor the regressive theory holds good in today's understanding. All of this will require that you are a little prepared with the modern day textbooks, and then you will be able to do justice to this topic. So among these general topics, what are the quite important topics? Mode of reproduction, alternation of generation, mechanism of spore release and dispersal, and range and evolution of sporophytes. Moving next, we are going to deal with certain taxonomic topics. In taxonomic topics, first and foremost, the modern taxonomy of bryophytes will be needed. What do we mean by modern taxonomy? By modern taxonomy, we would mean that the division of this entire group into three separate phyla or three separate divisions has to be highlighted by your answer. And then features of all these three divisions, how this group Marchantiophyta is different from Anthoceratophyta, how it is different from Polytrichophyta, and then you have to be ready with the comparison also. This comparison is pretty important and gets frequently asked. Comparison can take many forms. Sometimes they will ask you three groups to be compared together in a single table, and sometimes they are going to ask you to compare any two: mosses and hornworts, liverworts and hornworts, and liverworts and mosses. any two can also be given. So you have to be really ready with the comparison. And then there is one special group of liverworts, that is Junger Maniopsida. Junger Maniopsida is the class of liverwort that includes the leafy liverworts. You have to prepare Junger Maniopsida really well. They have asked question previously. Within this, there are two subclasses, Metzgeridae and Junger Mannii. You will have to deal at the level of subclass how Metzgeridae and Junger Mannii differ from each other. That also you have to talk about, and how in general Junger Maniopsida is different from Markantiopsida. That also needs to be compiled by you. And then one of the oft repeated question is comparison between leafy liverwort and mosses. Leafy liverwort and mosses, technically speaking, they both have got leaves, but then they are very different kind of leaves, and as plants also they are very different types of plants. You will need to pay attention on all these aspects based on which you will be comparing. And when you are comparing, start from the protonema stage, adult gametophyte stage, sexual reproduction, sexual structures, and then come to the sporophyte, and at that level also you will be able to differentiate. Once you are done with taxonomy, and prior to that you have done with general topics, let us say that you have covered most of the topics in Bryophyta, but you will still need to do some more topics like comparison of liverworts and hornworts, because they both are having rather simple kind of gametophyte, but at the level of a sporophyte there is significant difference. Then different classes of mosses should also be known to you, although it is not very frequent, but it can be a surprise question. Unique position of a sphagnum in the world of mosses is also an important topic that you should pay attention. In so many ways, a sphagnum is very different from rest of the mosses. So do pay attention to that as well. And then within the liverwort, get familiar with the structure and life history of Rixia, Markantia, Pellia and Porella. This life history thing will be very important if you are looking at Indian Forest Service examination also, and given the fact that in the recent years there has been a tendency to ask the questions that are hard to predict, you will encounter one of these life cycle. As such, Markantia and Rixia have been asked many times in the past 20 years, but Pellia and Porella have also been asked in the Forest Service examination, and it is only a matter of time when it gets asked in the Civil Service main examination, and doing these life histories is not going to take much of the time. Then we come to hornworts. So when we talk about hornworts, these are the important topics in hornworts that you should be thinking of doing. First and foremost, life history of Anthoceros. Anthoceros is the most important genus of hornwort, and it is taken as a very important representative. That is what you have to do. Then a special attention to its algae-like features. That's again very important. Then a repeated question is that Anthoceros is a synthetic genus. How is it? So this synthetic genus thing has to be well prepared by you. And lastly, the Anthoceros, the genus Anthoceros has to be compared with mosses. So comparison with mosses is also an important thing. And one more question that I would like to add here is how Anthoceros displays one of the simple gametophytes with complex sporophyte. So that will be an important question to be asked to you. So do get prepared. And the last set of topics will be the mosses. Within mosses, you have to do three genera. First genus is Sphagnum. Earlier, we have already discussed that you have to do the unique position of Sphagnum in the world of bryophytes, especially in the world of mosses, because Sphagnum in so many respects is very, very different from rest of the mosses. That has to be adequately covered by you. After that, you will be doing the significance and uniqueness of Sphagnum. And when you are doing significance, make sure that you are dealing with ecological as well as economic, because in both the respects, Sphagnum is a very important genus. You will have to deal with both the aspects of Sphagnum. After that, you will be doing Funaria and Polytrichum. These are two important genera. In both these genera, their structure has to be studied well, because they have asked questions on the structure. So they have asked question on the structure of Funaria, structure of Polytrichum, so you have to do it well. Apart from that, you have to compare their leaves. They have asked question on comparison of leaf of Funaria and Polytrichum, and lastly, pay attention to their sporophytic structure. So general structure, sporophyte and comparison of leaf, that will take care of all the questions on Funaria and Polytrichum. And in the end, what you have to do is distribution of bryophytes in India. Rarely a question has been asked, but it will be good to prepare. And then next will be economic and ecological importance. In economic and ecological importance, here you have to pay attention to the general aspects of bryophyte, the general ecological importance as indicator, as soil stabilizer, as contributor to soil organic matter, as biocontrol agent in some cases. So all of this as general importance of bryophytes. Once you are done with all these potential short notes, you are really done for bryophytes. If you scan through the past 15 years of question, you would hardly find any question that will be out of your range. And there will be one or two random question which may appear out of your range. You don't have to worry about those questions because they hardly repeat themselves. So when you prepare with these, you will either be able to answer 100% of the questions, or at worst 90% of the question that can be asked on Bryophyta. This is a very extensive list and you are absolutely not required to go beyond this. In the next part, before we conclude, we have to talk about books. Bryophytes will be very adequately covered from an Indian book. I have already recommended the textbook of botany by Singh, Pandey and Jain. So textbook of botany by Singh, Pandey and Jain, if you cover it very minutely and you make self notes and you revise your self notes, it will suffice. But if you think of directly depending on the book, that will not be enough. Plus there is one inadequacy of the book, that this book still follows the older classification where Bryophyta is a division and these three groups, Hepaticopsids, Anthoceratopsids and Bryopsids, are basically classes. So taxonomy you will have to learn from a modern book, and apart from that you will have to deal with the features, but by making self notes. If you are not making self notes, you will not be able to concretize your understanding and knowledge in a way that can be used in the examination. So very strongly advised, make self notes, and in this case an Indian book will be good enough. Taxonomy you will have to see from a modern book. You can follow any international book which is available online, because just for taxonomy you should not be needing to buy a book, but there are a number of books which are available online, or at least the certain websites are there which suggest you the modern classification. The identification of modern classification will be that the three groups of bryophytes must be treated as three separate divisions rather than 3 separate classes. So only one book, self notes, and a little bit of supplementation. That will be all. It's a small, easy area, but it has a good weightage in the examination, so it is worth paying attention and energy to. In the end, like always, thank you very much for watching this series, and I hope you are finding this series useful and adding to your preparation. I plan to continue this weekly series until all the parts of botany syllabus are completed. In each part, I am also going to discuss what are the source material that you should be referring to. And at any point of time, if you need my assistance, guidance as a teacher, I'm always available at Evolution through my online courses, through my mentorship program, and if the conditions improve, then through my classroom program also. Till then, goodbye and good luck with your preparations.